Good evening, and welcome to this evening's Pray, Fast, Love presentation. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about some interesting things. Fasting on temptation, feasting on simplicity. Now, sometimes we get confused about temptation. All of us are tempted. And it's not a question of being tempted to eat because we're fasting. Yeah, that happens, doesn't it? There's all kinds of good food out there, and the better it tastes, sometimes the more unhealthy it is. I know as a diabetic, it's really important that I don't munch on the things that I even bake. I love to bake cookies and brownies and all kinds of wonderful tasting things and then give them away. I tempt other people, the people who can afford it, or the people who need a treat every once in a while in their life. Sent some brownie cake over to Annie for Easter, just so that she could have an experience of the joys of chocolate on an Easter day. Chocolate is my favorite. I could eat it all day long, or used to. Now I tend to be really, really picky as to what kind of chocolate I eat. And so it's not just the everyday stuff. I don't buy chocolate bars. I buy normally Belgian chocolates. They're really expensive, that you have to order by mail, and it takes a long time to arrive. And so it's really a treat thing. And so I'm not tempted. And if I have too much of it, I just ship that away too, to get over temptations. I once had a really good friend at Blessed Trinity who had an addiction to cigarettes, to chocolate, and I forget what else, but there was one other thing. And whenever she bought those things, and sometimes she'd ask me to buy her something good, some See's chocolate or some Neuhaus or something that was really good, she would give me the money to buy it and then donate the equal amount to the church. And she called that her sin tax. And the sin tax was a complete, total, 100% gift to the church, equal to what she spent on any one of her sins and temptations. She didn't buy a lot, but every once in a while, that was there. That was her way of dealing with temptation. One of the first things to recognize is temptations are real, and that we can conquer them and not be conquered by them. The way in which that really works is that we see what we like. And as the book reminds us, that we delay, not deny. It says one of the first ways we can deal with temptations is to say, that's something I want, and admit it. And not beat ourselves up because we're tempted by some good stuff, whether it's the joys of life, whether it's the joys of love, whether it's having a great time. These days, we're tempted to do a lot of things that we know we can't do, and yet we simply let go. We let go of our need to do what we want, and we simplify our lives. And that's how we deal with temptation. Temptation and simplicity are the opposites of one another. If we simplify our lives and not complicate lives with all the things that we need, that we want, that we desire, that somehow are going to make us better. If we watch all those commercials, we'd be spending thousands of dollars a day on a brand new car, on a brand new clothes, on brand new food, on brand new drugs, and all those things that can somehow supposedly make us better. We know they don't. And that's the first thing about temptation. To conquer it, you need to look at it straight in the eye and see, I don't need that. The classic temptations, the three that Jesus was tempted to do. We hear them in the beginning of every Lenten season, the first Sunday in Lent of the temptations. And Jesus is tempted when he's hungry to make bread. Today's gospel talked about Jesus making bread. He was pretty good at it. He took 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, and he fed 5,000 people. Now that's good at making bread. And so, could he have turned rocks into bread if he wanted to? Sure he could. Mary at La Salette talks about the same reality. She says, if we're converted, if we trust in the Lord, if we're good to the Lord, then we can turn the stones in the fields into heaps of wheat. We can create good things out of the things that make us struggle by just letting go of our need to make it about ourselves. Because that's what that temptation is. The temptation to serve our needs. The temptation that I'm first. The temptation that my urges, my desires, my needs at the very moment have to be fulfilled. That's the craziness. That's the failure. The failure to be our best. The failure to be free. True freedom comes when we move beyond temptation, when we move beyond sin, when we do what is good and holy and wholesome. Immanuel Kant talked about that as positive freedom. The only true kind of freedom is when we do what is morally right, what we do that helps others, what we do for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of our faith, for the sake of the needs of other people. And we're so often tempted not to do that. These days of coronavirus, how many times are we tempted to just go out on our own? Wouldn't it be great? Every week I normally went to a movie. I haven't been to a movie in a long time, and it's not the same. Netflix is nice, and so is HBO and all those other things, and I've got a fairly good collection of DVDs here too, but it's not the same as going to a movie and going out with the guys. And our boys' night out was kind of infamous for the 4 of us, where we go out and we share a meal, and then we can just relax and share a movie. I also have an annual pass to Disney and Universal and SeaWorld. And I love going out to amusement parks. Love roller coasters. It's one of my great loves in life. It's one of my treats to go on the most daring roller coasters you can find. And as long as I fit on them, then I'll be there. As long as I feel secure, no problems, even though I am deadly afraid of heights. The temptation to explore, the temptation to live, the temptation to enjoy are good temptations. And it's a question of balancing them off, a question of making sure that we do our very best not to be limited, not to be empowered by fear or care or concerns, but instead being empowered by joy and happiness and freedom. Those temptations to be free, truly free, are really important. And we can be free from food. We can be free from need. We can be free from those impassioned feelings that want us to do stuff that just isn't right. And we know it. It's not bad to be tempted. It's bad to give in to the temptation. And I think the first way we do that is just to simplify our lives. The other 2 temptations that Jesus faced were the temptation to prove his relationship with God. To jump off the temple and let God send his angels to catch him. I don't think that's a realistic one, and yet some people do that these days. Haven't we seen, the foolish pastors who were tempted to say that God will protect me, God will save me, and instead God welcomed some of them home. The wrong temptation, the temptation to think that we control God rather than God controls us. God helps us to live good lives if we trust in Him. God's not there to lead us into crazy temptations. The temptation to control what God does. That was the first temptation of all, the temptation of Adam and Eve, to basically do what they wanted, to become like God by eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Having the knowledge of good and evil, and experiencing it was their downfall, because they had to admit that they wanted to be like God. In fact, they wanted to replace God. And anytime we want to replace God, anytime we want to be in charge, then that temptation really does need to be confronted. We need to be able somehow to do our very best. And then there's a temptation for power, for notice, for appreciation. Now, all of those things are good. It's nice to be liked. It's nice to be appreciated. But if we put those things first, then instead of being simple, and instead of being grateful, and instead of doing our best for the sake of others, we're basically looking to do our best for the sake of ourselves. If you look at something like, the Medal of Honor and how that's given, that's given to people not who want to earn the medal. It's given to people who are unselfish, who are willing to do what needs to be done. And in that doing, they deserve to be recognized. If all you were doing was trying to be recognized, then jumping on a grenade, risking your life, trying to save other people in the heat of battle, sound like crazy ways. And yet, that's exactly what we recognize as valuable, as important. That service to others is what truly allows us to be our best. That's the kind of recognition that we deserve. That's the kind of recognition that is given to our health workers. People coming out on their balconies, clapping and singing, police cars showing up at hospitals, sounding off their sirens and forming heart-shaped positions just to allow people to know how much they're appreciated. People thanking others. People being grateful to others. Not because they're looking for that, but because they're looking for better things. They're looking for the higher things. They're looking to find ways to save people, to serve people, to do their best. I just saw one of my friends, a young man who's a nurse. And he spent a lot of time learning how to be a good nurse, and then a children's nurse, and then a heart nurse. And these days he's up in New York City, working with the dying. Because that's what Alex is all about. Not looking for recognition, not looking for fame. He's a pretty humble, simple guy. But what he's trying to do instead is to serve and offer his skills without pay, without much recognition except by us as friends, and just hoping that he does well and that he's able to bring comfort and care and hopefully health to some of the people that he'll work with. He's one of the many people who is willing to put others first. willing to avoid that temptation about what's in it for me. Because what's in it for him is just the joy and the happiness and the specialness of being important, of being able to help others in their need. And that's what drove him to become a medical person. That's what drives him in his life. And I applaud him and the thousands and thousands of others across our country who are doing the same in our hospitals, doing the same on our streets, doing the same putting out fires, doing the same helping people in emergencies, serving to bring peace and justice to our world. All of those people are doing great things because they see what's important and they go after it. And that's a part of the simplicity of life, the simplicity of being focused. Stephen Covey talks about the 7 habits of highly effective people. And one of the things that he does is talks about uncluttering our lives. And that each day we should set 3 goals for the day. 3 things that we need to get done. And we make those our priorities. We don't make our priorities out of the emergencies, the troubles, the difficulties, all those things that crowd our lives. They're going to happen. But if we want to accomplish things, we need to be focused. And so if we set our goals to say, these are the 3 things I need to do today that I really want to see as important, they can happen. And that's really great. What we need to always do is to be able to have that sense of focus. And what happens when we don't accomplish all 3 of them, and maybe we just do one well and another one half well? Well, there's always tomorrow. And we reset our goals for tomorrow. Plodding along, one day at a time. That's the secret of Alcoholics Anonymous and many of the self-help groups. That has to be our secret too, that we do what we can today. We respond to the needs of today. Focus, though. Not just whatever might happen, because sometimes nothing happens. At the end of the day, it's like, what did I accomplish? Well, I didn't set any goals, so I didn't accomplish much of anything. No, we can't, do that. That's not simplicity. Simplicity is to be able to say, I will do the best I can with what I have for tasks today. I won't be tempted to drive off course. I won't be tempted to waste my time. I won't be tempted to fail to do the things that I really should be doing, and instead I will be my best. In these days, of struggle, the great temptation is simply, what's in it for me? And for a lot of younger people, that's exactly how they look. They look and say, well, I'm not going to die, and I'm sorry if you do, and I hope I don't cause your death, but you're not going to ruin my life. You're not going to limit who I am. And once we get that kind of attitude, we're in deep trouble. We live in a world that's best served by people willing and generous to help others, willing to reach out and to do projects, Habitat for Humanity, mission work, food pantries, all of those things that help other people to be their best. We can do that if only we let go, if only we try. I'm sure I've used up all my time by now, and we'll let you get on. But remember, watch temptation. Don't fight it. Don't give in to it. Let it fly by. Deny it only when you have to. Delay it when you can. Especially the temptation to eat. There's some great stuff to eat. God made a lot of good things. and so do bakeries and chocolatiers and a lot of wonderful cooks. You know, don't allow the temptation to enjoy everything that's made lead to you moving away from fasting, but at the same time, fast well, fast joyfully, fast with prayer, and let your fast lead to love. Yeah, this is not a dieting program. This is a loving program. And so when we pray and we fast, it's got to move to that third, love. Otherwise, it's empty. It's pointless. It goes nowhere. Be lovers. Good night.